I never thought I'd be ashamed of my own daughter. And yet, on the night of my mother's 72nd birthday, she made me feel something I never expected. Heartbreak, betrayal, disgust. That evening began like any ordinary family gathering. My mother spent a whole week preparing. She baked her favorite cake, chocolate with raspberries. The one she'd made countless times over the years. Pages of her old recipe book were stained with batter and flour, but she clipped that recipe, dusted it off, and smiled as she mixed the dough. She hummed a tune my grandmother used to sing, and I remember thinking, she looked younger that day, excited, hopeful. When I walked in, the house smelled like warmth, like home. Candles flickered on the dining table. A bouquet of daisies and lilies sat in a vase, her favorite flowers. My mom hurried around, lighting candles, arranging glasses, wiping a tear of joy from her eyes. She asked me to help set the table. As I placed the silverware, I caught a glimpse of my daughter standing by the door. She was late, again, but something else in her stance made me freeze for a moment. She walked in wearing sunglasses indoors. Not joking, serious. She didn't smile, didn't greet my mom, didn't hug. Instead, she surveyed the room like a stranger stepping into a gathering she never agreed to attend. No warmth, no care, just a cold, detached stare. I frowned, tried not to let it show, but I felt a chill crawl up my spine. My mom greeted her with a warm happy birthday to me, arms open, but was met with silence. The woman sat down, arms crossed, body tense. Phone in, and she glanced at it several times. Didn't dare. Didn't they put it? Hawaii. I felt the air shift. Guests moved clumsily, avoiding eye contact. The neighbor cleared her throat. My aunt exchanged glances with my cousins, but no one dared speak up. Dinner began. Polite smiles, small talk. My mom tried to lighten the mood, talking about childhood memories, old photos, stories from decades ago. She laughed. A soft laugh. Kind, nostalgic. She recalled how my daughter was a toddler, how she held her first spoon, how she cried the first night she slept alone. There was warmth. I almost believed things could go back to how they were until the cake came out. The lights dimmed. The candles on the cake glowed golden. My mom stood, eyes glistening, voice trembling. Thank you all for being here. I know I'm old. I know I don't have much. But tonight, seeing all of you around this table, it's the greatest gift I could ask for. She paused, took a deep breath. This cake means more than sweets. Eat men's, low memories, family. She closed her eyes, ready to blow out the candles. For a moment, there was silence, warm, hopeful. And then, my daughter stood up. The room held its breath. She looked directly at my mom. Her voice was cold, slow, unfeeling. Why are we pretending this woman matters? She said. She barely remembers who we are anymore. The blow landed hard. The laughter died. Forks dropped. Glasses froze midair. My aunt's mouth opened, her teeth showing. The neighbor's eyes widened. My cousins exchanged fearful glances. My mother, my gentle, loving mother, collapsed inward. One hand hovered over the cake. The other gripped the edge of the table. Tears started silent, glistening. The room felt smaller, darker. I remember standing up, walking. Breathing was heavy. Sound felt distant. I reached for my mother's hand, touching her shoulder gently. Whispered, "Let's go." She didn't protest. Her eyes were wet, stunned. She stood, slowly, as if surfacing from water after being dragged under. We walked out of the house, out of that nightmare. The front door slammed softly behind us, echoing like a final verdict. Outside, the air was cold. Night calm. My mother leaned against the car door, trembling. I helped her into the passenger seat, got behind the wheel, drove 4 minutes that felt like hours. Radio off. Windows up. Silence. She didn't say a word. I didn't either. I glanced at her profile, face lined with pain, regret, confusion. The birthday cake, decorations, smiling faces felt like a distant fever dream. That night, her apartment was quiet. She didn't touch the cake, didn't change clothes, just sat in a corner, clutching that old recipe book. Pages yellowed, edges torn. She opened it slowly, finger tracing over faded lines. Memories poor, childhood laughter, family dinners, birthday candles, cozy hugs. Now it felt hollow, empty. She whispered into the darkness. Was I a bad grandmother? The question hung heavy between us. I had no answer, so I sat beside her, took her hand gently, and held it. Let her grief speak through tears. I pressed my lips to her forehead. My mother wept silently. I held her until she exhausted herself. She curled up, falling into a restless sleep. 2 days passed. I heard my phone buzz. A message preview flashed. Can we talk? I didn't mean what I said. I lost control. Please, let me explain. It was from my daughter. I stared at the screen long, letting the cold light deafen me. I remembered the candles, the cake, my mother's tears. I exhaled slowly. I typed, no. I left the message unread. Phone silent. Notifications off. The next morning, the doorbell rang. My daughter stood there, eyes red, words trembling. Please, just give me a chance. I can make things right. I shook my head. This time, you fix it, I said. You broke her heart, not me. She was silent. She dropped her gaze, tears falling silently. She turned around and walked away. Weeks passed. She sent letters, gifts, calls, apologies. None opened. Non answerth. There was a stack of unopened envelopes on the kitchen table, wedding invitations, birthday cards, Christmas cards, all representing hope, all ignored. I moved my mother into a small apartment near mine. New walls, new windows, fresh air, no more pain bells, no more false smiles. She smiles again, sometimes, quietly, softly. Opening that old recipe book now feels like reading a memory, not a wound. I learned something important that week. Kindness doesn't run in blood. It runs in character. It runs in the choices we make. Titles, daughter, mother, grandmother, mean nothing when respect is absent. I still love my daughter. I wish things were different. But I will never let anyone treat the woman who raised me like she was invisible, because love without respect is just waiting for the next blow. So I walk away with dignity, with faith in what's real. The people who stay, who care, who see, and with a promise to keep my mother safe. Always. Kindness doesn't run in blood. It runs in character. After that night, something shifted in my mother. She didn't complain. She didn't cry in front of anyone, but the spark in her eyes, the one that used to light up every time she spoke about family, was gone. She moved slower, spoke less, avoided mirrors, and stopped playing her favorite music in the mornings. The apartment felt colder, not because of the weather, but because her presence had dimmed. She began sitting in silence, her hands folded over her lap, staring at nothing in particular. I visited often. Every day if I could. I'd bring her favorite tea, help her fold laundry, sit next to her in the evenings as she watched the sun dip below the skyline. But most of the time, we sat in silence. Not awkward silence, just quiet. Heavy. Heavy. One morning, she broke it. She didn't even look at me. She whispered, more to herself than to me. Not even once. I looked at her. Her eyes were tired, but not from lack of sleep. They were tired from remembering. She pulled out the birthday card my daughter had sent days after the incident. It was unopened for a long time. Now, it sat on the table, envelope torn. She read it twice. She says she's sorry, my mother said, but it's just words. I don't feel the truth in them. I didn't know what to say, because I agreed. My daughter had been sending more messages lately, voice notes, long texts, even emails. She kept repeating that she was sorry, that she didn't mean it. That Sehust said something stupid. But stupid words can cut deeper than knives, especially when spoken in front of a room full of people. One night, my daughter came to my door. She stood outside with tears on her cheeks. I need to talk to you, she said. Primera, hesitate, then stepped outside, closing the door gently behind me. She cried. A lot. Told me she didn't recognize herself that night. Said she was under pressure, that her job had been stressful, her relationship was falling apart, and that she just lashed out. Why did it have to be on her birthday? I asked quietly. I don't know, she sobbed. I wasn't thinking. I thought I was being honest. I thought maybe she wouldn't care. I shook my head. She cared more than anyone ever has. She begged me to let her talk to Grandma, to just sit down and explain. But I told her the truth. She doesn't want to see you right now. She's not ready, and I won't force her. My daughter looked at me like I had betrayed her. I'm your daughter, she said. And she's my mother, I replied. And right now, she's the one who's hurting the most. She walked away that night, but her guilt didn't. I saw it in the messages that followed: more apologies, more gifts sent to my mother's door, more silence returned in exchange. And still, my mother said nothing. She simply clipped her roses in the morning and watched the petals fall. That was her healing. Quiet. Slow, but real. Weeks passed, the leaves began to change. Autumn painted the city in gold and rust, but my mother's mood remained muted, like a season stuck between sadness and surrender. She still baked, still kept her apartment tidy, but the joy was mechanical. She did things because she was used to doing them, not because they brought her peace. One afternoon, I found her watching a video on her old tablet. It was my daughter at age 5, standing on a chair in the kitchen, pretending to give a cooking lesson with flour on her cheeks and a spoon in her hand. My mother smiled, not the kind that reaches your eyes, the kind that aches. She used to follow me everywhere, she said. Even when I was tired, she'd pull me into her world and make me laugh. How did we lose that? I didn't have the answer. That night, I called my daughter. First time in weeks, she picked up immediately. Her voice cracked. Mom, please tell me she's okay. She's surviving, I replied. But you broke something, and I'm not sure if it can be rebuilt. She asked to see her, just once. To apologize in person. I told her I would ask, but I wasn't hopeful. The next day, I sat with my mother and explained, told her that my daughter wanted to come, that she wanted to speak from her heart, that she seemed genuinely sorry. My mother looked at me, then out the window. Only if she comes alone. No flowers, no gifts, no performance. Just her. I nodded. 3 days later, my daughter arrived. She stood at my mother's doorstep, clutching nothing but her hands. Her eyes were red, her body shaking. I stayed outside. This was their moment, not mine. For 20 minutes, the door remained closed. Then, it opened. My daughter stepped out slowly. Her face was wet with tears, her lips trembling. She didn't say a word as she passed me, just nodded, barely. I walked inside. My mother sat quietly on the couch, holding a small photo of the 3 of us from years ago. Her eyes were misty, but calm. She spoke, she said. But more importantly, she listened. I sat beside her, unsure what that meant. I told her I don't need her to fix the past, she said. I just need her to grow into someone who never repeats it. I asked, did you forgive her? She smiled faintly. Forgiveness is a process, But today was the first step. From that day on, things didn't magically become perfect, but something began to shift. My daughter visited every Sunday, no matter what. Sometimes they talked, sometimes they didn't. Sometimes my mother baked cookies and they sat quietly while the kitchen smelled of vanilla and thyme. It was slow. It was fragile, but it was real. A few months later, on my mother's next birthday, she asked for something specific. "I don't want a party," she said. "I want a dinner. Just us. No decorations, no expectations, just family. Honest and simple." And so we did. No one dressed up. No one gave speeches. My daughter brought a small cake. My mother smiled for the first real time in a long while. At the end of the night, my daughter stood up and said softly, "Thank you for letting me try again." My mother looked up and replied, "Thank you for not giving up." And in that moment, years of pain, pride, and misunderstanding melted not into perfection, but into possibility. Because sometimes that's all healing needs.